Okay, I think recording is up. Amazing. I think let me confirm if we have all our speakers here. Hi, Abubakar. If you are here, you could just maybe say an hi. Okay, great. Hi, Ace Kid, Adewale, my former boss, and still my boss. Hi, are you here?
Yeah, Mia, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Perfect.
Awesome.
Great. Okay, someone from Kigali. That's amazing. Um, Minecraft still here. I think I saw earlier on where everyone was repping Kenya. Hi.
Hi, team. This is Michael, OMK.
Awesome, great. Hi, Namso.
Hi, Timothy. What's popping?
I'm fine. I'm great. Your boy remain loyal. Great. Okay. I think Ada. Hi, Ada. Are you here already? Um, I'm not sure. This. Give me a minute. Um, minute. Um, okay, please just a minute. Okay, I think I just dropped a message with her since she's currently not here. But yeah, let's get the conversation started. So yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to CM First Africa pre-event series. Part of CM First Africa is festival for to celebrate community builders that are based in Africa. We did the first festival last year. That was around October last year. We had over 100 plus community managers who joined us from Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya. Yeah, I think I'm sure over 100 plus who came around, and we are doing it again this year, and we're focusing on the evolution of community management, how have community management evolved from the earlier time to the COVID era to now post-COVID, right? How people have been building communities in the time of the forum era, now moving over to online communities, Discord and the rest, even to in-person communities and in-person events. I kind of like um, every aspect our community has evolved. That's why we are currently having this conversation with various community builders, community managers, and people who have built communities earlier on, a few years back. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 to 10 years to share insights around how they build communities and learn from them and also understand mistakes they made and how we can able to learn from those mistakes and stuff around that. So yeah, since we have like 4 out of our 5 speakers, kind of like kick off this conversation. So before I do that, let me kind of like run down the introduction of all the speaker here again. So I've been Adewale Abati, currently developer advocate at Block. Having Namso, currently the co-founder of Kimoyo Insight. I was formerly the regional lead for F4 Africa, that's Figma, Friends of Figma. Then we're having Michael Kimathi, currently the head of developer community at head of developer community Africa at Africans Talking. Also we're building a lot of developer communities in Kenya. Also the community lead for official community events in Kenya and so on and so forth. Then also having Abubakar Siddiq Ango, currently the developer evangelism program manager at Discord. Then finally we're having Nduka, currently the founder of She Code Africa and also DevRel at Google. So yeah, I think this is a conversation I've been waiting for from the moment we set up this particular session. Because again, we'll be getting a lot of insight from this conversation. So first, I'm showing a particular question to every one of our speaker, right? So this question, I think everyone should kind of like, answer it and share their perspective around it. But I'll be starting, oh, am I seeing on my screen first? I think I was starting with Abubakar. Yeah. Can I call you that?
Yes.
Awesome. So I think I was starting my question with, I think you're the first person to join us. So maybe my question, I'll start from there. So basically, I've done a little bit of introduction about you, which is just about your current role and stuff like that. But I want you to share a little bit about yourself again and your journey into community building. Like basically what drew you into building communities, or maybe for developers or generally communities.
Thank you very much. And I think a little correction. I'm with GitLab, not
GitLab.
Discord.
Sorry, GitLab.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. You want me then sack me. So awesome. Once again, I'm Abubakar Siddiq Ango. Okay, I mentioned that I'm in London. I came for a company meeting, but I'm originally Adewale's neighbor in the Netherlands, The Hague. Yeah, my experience with community started, way back 2004, 2005, when I was the chapter president of the Nigerian Association of Computer Science Students at Federal Polytechnic Bauchi. Originally, I'm from Southwest Nigeria, but I've lived most of my life in the north, just northern Nigeria, since it's not only Nigerians that are here. Northern Nigeria, Jos and Bauchi. I think that's where my experience with community started. We had to organize an event for students, and I was opportuned to invite Microsoft then, 2005, and a couple of other companies, Zynox, to come to the school, give scholarship for trainings in the institution, and even some certifications. I think then Microsoft certified certifications were very popular then. So I think from there, I've been doing community up till 2015 when I started Google Developer Group in Bauchi. And since then, I think I've done quite a number of communities, DigitalOcean, wow, plenty. I can't even remember some of them. But I've done quite a number of them up to this moment where I don't do a lot of it. So I'm more or less like a mentorship role because I've left some of it for those that are currently in, that just came into the community. And also, I think most of the things I do now are around the CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation. I'm an ambassador there. And I'm also GDE for Cloud, Google Developer Expert for Cloud. Yeah, that's like a short summary. The story plenty, but let me not waste too much of our time here.
Okay. That was great. Eski, do you want to go next?
Oh yeah, sure. Is that to follow, but I'll try. Yeah, so my name is Adewale. A lot of people call me Ace, probably because I forced them to. But I've been doing community stuff for, I would say, I think that my community journey started as a member of the community. So I studied computer science in university, and that was also the first time I started learning how to code. And the inspiration basically came from watching some of my colleagues that were, some of them were at my level, some of them were just one year after. Then they were already like building expert systems and all those things that we used to build in university, and I was very inspired. So the way I started learning how to code was as part of a community, because I was teaching myself, we were guiding in my classes, and gradually more people wanted to also do that. And then we started going to 5 people, 10 people, 15 people. So that just basically naturally occurred there. And then I became, the software director of NACOS, that's the National Association of Computer Science Students from my university at the time, which made me responsible to a certain degree of the software engineering community in the school. And then the year after that, I became a Microsoft student partner. And that kind of like just expanded it a bit, where as a member of the community, I was also responsible for just not only providing resources for members of the community, but also to a certain extent being a leader in said community and just trying to manage that and make sure that everybody is as good as it could be. But leaving the university space, I found myself, a little bit isolated. But luckily for me, it was also around the time where more communities were springing up, especially in Lagos. This is around 2016, 2015-ish. So I was lucky to be part of people that joined communities like Good Hands, Dev Center Slack. Those were like very cool communities that were springing up there. And I was very active there because it felt nice to be able to connect with people that were doing something similar, the same struggles, and you could relate, which is what I meant by to my journey to community starting as a community member, because I experienced it. I saw people that were leading those communities were doing the gaps, the great things they were doing, the support, everything, and I just gradually did more of that, which naturally led me into also like a developer advocacy role, and that often overlaps with community management or just creating or managing community. But I'll say the biggest community I've been to a certain extent responsible for was at Ingressive. Ingressive was a market entry firm and wanted to enable companies like GitHub, Microsoft to a certain extent break into certain developer communities. So we were tasked with the job of building communities across Sub-Saharan Africa. And I think Timothy was one of the ambassadors that we worked with at the time. So we're able to have about 100 ambassadors across Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and be able to work with these ambassadors to also build communities in their own schools. So it was like a community of community builders, so to say. And then we had to also manage all of this. So this is probably the biggest community focused job I've had throughout my career. Then after that, I was dev advocate at Flutterwave, the $3 billion company now. Before I moved to front-end engineer, and now then Code Sandbox, and now Block. Block is formerly known as Square, but it's the parent company of Square, Cash App, Tidal, and the like. So that is how I basically got to this point.
Awesome. That's like an amazing journey. I think I remember the time at when we were at Ingressive doing that. I think Michael, do you want to go next?
Yeah, no worries, Tim. So my name is Michael Kimathi. You can refer to me as MK, just my two initials. I like keeping it simple. So my journey, as most of you here, started back at the University of Nairobi, doing computer science. And actually, it was very interesting because it was raised by a need of building some AI, which is now taking over. We had this need to build AI, and then one of our professors introduced Ruby. And since after investigation, we found out Ruby has some excellent open source community. And I and my colleague who runs FinPlus, which is one of the big fintech company here as a CTO, we decided to be meeting. But of course, over time, people fell off, started getting people from outside the campus. And we decided, okay, why can't we just build this even beyond the school? Since then, almost 13 years now down the line, the community has grown to over 10,000 members, and we are expanding across Africa as the African Ruby community. You can check it out. Actually, we launched the website just a few weeks ago. Also, we started the Rails Girls, which some of the leaders are here listening on how we started this. So that's where it all started. But ideally, it was just a need of can we get together and learn this faster? But fast forward, we also started the first GDGs together with Hamed Maui, who is based in Dubai nowadays, and Anthony Nanda, we normally call him Prof. I think he's synonymous in the developer ecosystem in Africa. He works for different companies. One of them, I think, is Microsoft. And immediately after that, I started BlackBerry community when they were launching BlackBerry 10. So we had to, play around with C, hardware, and stuff. Down the line, things changed from focus for developers to enterprise. And shortly thereafter, I was called back to my alma mater to run an innovation hub known as Computing for Development Lab, which produced, some of the guys who raised a quite substantial amount of venture capitalist money, Market Force 360, which acquired a company in Nigeria, led by young guys, young minds. And then within the same time, I started Atlassian community. And actually, I need to say this at this point. When I graduated in 2013, I was split between, going to Seattle to work for Microsoft or join Google at, in California. And, I normally joke, but it's really, it was a serious debate among in myself. And marry a very beautiful Latina wife, have beautiful children. Buy myself a GMC kind of car, tint windows. But also, I looked at Africa at large. It might sound like, and I realized that for you actually to really work for a proper company, you have to like relocate, forget about Africa. And for me, it felt like you're paid to forget to solve our own problems. And I chose actually to just build communities. Then actually, there's not nothing much. Our brothers in Nigeria who are really doing well. You guys know how to to advertise the smallest thing that you're doing. But for us Kenyans, is a different other African countries, like you are laid back. So I was one of the advocates, like, can we build, we're not as many as, Nigeria, we're not as, vocal as Nigeria is. But if we focus on building solutions, then we're going to get there. And I'm proud to say by now, Africa is doing well beyond even Kenya. And fast forward, I've been doing community for over 11 years. I just joined Africa Stocking, which coincidentally I was not supposed to join as community lead and stuff. But when the CEO, what I've done over time, he said, okay, forget about engineering ops and come and help us figure out this developer community that we have across Africa, which actually align with what I envisioned in terms of coming together and doing this. And actually last year, one of the guys that helped the community was willing to come to the CMS first, the first one. But of course, it didn't happen. But just to say the least is that this is big. Regardless of where you are, if you're African, this is the time actually we build our own solution. And I'm glad to hear, guys are doing this in different places in the continent. Something else that I started last year is a podcast known as Impact Masters podcast. You can find us in all, podcast channels such as Apple, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, as well as Amazon Music. You can go and listen to different stories. So what you're trying to do is just tell our own authentic stories of our achievements and celebrate that and try to see if we can be able to give lessons. So I'll stop there for the intro. But of course, right now we are running a community of over 50,000 developers through Africa Stocking. And ideally, we have developers in the 54 countries across Africa. Wow. So forget about north, south, west, wherever, we have developers there. So right now we are doubling down to ensure that we upskill these developers. We start solving African problem, that we face. So if you're here, you want to join the movement, please head over to community.com/Africa Stocking. And some of the developers actually are here, and they can tell you the experience themselves. Thank you so much, team.
Awesome. That's great. Really love your intro. That's over 10 years of experience. That's being in community time of BlackBerry. That's really crazy. Okay. I think we still have Namnso. Hi, Namnso.
Hey, Timothy.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. So my first experience with community was with Usable, 2017. Like as a designer, there were not a lot of design communities. So just experiencing Usable, being like that space where designers could share their work, get feedback, and you're doing it in front of people that you have no idea or people that you don't even know. just really pushed me towards, oh, okay, what if we could replicate this experience? So people that um, don't have time, to maybe leave their works early to go attend the weekly meetings could always just be a part of online anywhere. And this was at a time when Figma was just really everywhere. Figma came and was like the solution to, if you didn't have a Mac, if you didn't have a MacBook, you could still make like quality designs using this very amazing tool. That was when I started Figma Nigeria. Initially, it wasn't like Figma Africa, it was Figma Nigeria initially, just for Lagos. And then after a while, I think after the first meeting that we had with the line attendants, we decided to expand it to the rest of Africa. And we did some really amazing stuff because that was when we realized, oh, what if we could push design even to universities, push it into some of the learning curriculums in computer science department. And we got to expand it to about 22 cities in six countries, I think within the first 6 months. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of people that helped push that vision. There was also a lot of ideas that we were exploring. One, how can we make it engaging for people? How do we also make sure that we have activities that will make this plus people to feel safe enough to share their work, engage in design challenges. Yeah, I think I did Figma for some time before now linking up with Mariam, my current co-founder, and we now still started Kimoyo Fellowship. Kimoyo Fellowship was supposed to be everything that we couldn't do at Figma Africa. First of Figma Africa, Kimoyo Fellowship was supposed to be that space where, like, okay, what if quality doesn't need to scale? What if we can just really focus on impact with a small number of people, take the learnings from there, and maybe now look at applying that to a large number of people. That was also a success because we ran two successful calls. We just got tied down with Kimoyo Insight. Yeah, I think with design communities, it's also been amazing seeing what Figma, what First of Figma, First of Figma Africa group is doing right now, where they've taken it beyond, design activities within Meetup. So, Twitter Spaces, just making sure that it's accessible to everybody, no matter where they are, and not just having it on those event speaker type of platforms. So it's like it's evolving with the times.
Awesome. That's amazing. Really, really proud of the work you did at Figma Africa, First of Figma Africa. Yeah, I was really a big fan of that. So yeah, I think someone just joined us, my co-host. Hi, Anifa. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, and can hear you. Finally, my co-host is here with me. That's great. So okay, yeah, I think Adasti not around. I think we'll be keeping up the conversation. She might um, join us later on. So, Anifa, anything you want to add into the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, apologies for joining a little bit late, and thank you again to all our speakers. I think you've been, really amazing moderating the session so far. So, I mean, we've been listening to a lot, and thanks again for actually doing this. One of the reasons why we specifically picked this topic, and in preview, like in focus to the main event itself that's coming up, is because we wanted people to see, where the evolution of community management has been coming from, especially in the continent. And I'm, really proud to be here, especially having Adewale as well, my direct, my direct teacher. And yeah, so this kind of moves me on to the next question that I'll be asking. So first off, I'll be asking Adewale, and the question is, in all the times that you've been, in terms of community management, especially in your early days, because we want to kind of learn lessons from our past so we know what our future would look like. Could you share the biggest challenge that the biggest challenge that you faced as a community manager, and how you overcame them?
That is that is quite a question. I doubt I'll be able to actually remember what the biggest challenge is, but I would say one of the things that was very critical was having patience and empathy. That's very critical early on, and also, I mean, something that also needed to be learned, because regardless of how much you have it, when you're in a community, you'll be pushed. You'll be pushed to like the ridiculous levels, because different kinds of people will be joining your community. There are people that, especially those that might need help at certain points, and they would almost demand that you respond instantly, or just message weekly, because at the end of the day, a lot of people are from different cultures. So you need to have the range, or at least acquire and learn the range to always keep your cool. Try to understand what their situation, or their situation could be affecting their current state of mind. But at the same time, you also have to be, objective to the convenience of other members of the community. So while if for example, somebody is being unnecessarily rude, while you want to show them empathy and try to understand their situation, you also have to protect other members of the community in a way that they don't necessarily attack or make those other people uncomfortable. So just learning the dexterity to have that empathy and also the patience to navigate some of possibly complicated situations when you're managing a community is very critical. There are people that could come in, and there was a time I can't remember which of my communities it was, but I was managing stuff, and this guy just came in. I was using the F word, was just cussing here and there, trying to get people to help him, and I'm a Yoruba boy, so I had to like just take a minute, look at the message, take deep breaths. All of those things are very critical to be able to um, respond, and then you find yourself responding as nicely as you can to somebody that is cussing you out, not just because of you, but also because of other members of the community, so they know that they can always count on what's it called, your composure and your support, and of course your empathy if they should ever need it. So your interactions with each individual person also kind of translates, because people will come in, they will read the messages, they will see how you responded in certain situations, and it could make or break the community, right? So it's very important for people to feel at home, but also know that if there's any major threat, you can also take decisive action to either take the person out of the community, ban people, all of those things. So it's like a fine balance between controlling such power, where you get to show clearly that you are serving, versus just leading people anyhow. So yeah, I say that would be one thing that had to be learned.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of community managers here can relate. And you were speaking, and I was like nodding my head as, oh my God, oh boy, yes, yes. Especially when you're a community manager that
Yeah.
manages multiple chat rooms, and then that's like a lot of conversations that you have to moderate and ensure that nobody is breaking those rules. And I think it's really important the way you've also shared it as well, because it kind of also defined how a lot of people kind of approached creating rules and regulation for your community, and just being able to just keep your cool.
Yeah.
Because people can be really, really crazy. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just noticed that I didn't introduce myself. Hi everyone, my name is Hanifa, and I am currently the programs and community manager at Ingressive for Good. Previously Ingressive LLC, where I worked with Adewale as well. So yeah, that's kind of like the chain of line. So my next question is going to be going to Abubakar, and essentially this is kind of talking about how community management can be emotionally damaging or emotionally demanding. Let me not use the word damaging, but so how do you personally manage burnout and stay motivated throughout your career so far?
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly? Sorry, I'm actually walking. Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think managing burnout, it's a lot. When you are managing a community, like Adewale mentioned, you have people from different cultural background, different ways of life, basically. So the first thing would be, as a person, what's your reason for joining a community in the first place? Why do you want to manage a community? Then Also, at the end of the day, what's the goal you want to get out of it? So once you've defined a goal for yourself, the next thing would be the community you are managing. Uh, what is, how do you define success? Now, we found a lot of community where the goal is a number. Oh, we want to influence like 200 developers, or we want to build a community that is 100,000 and so on. But at the end of the day, you get to that number, what next? So I think one of the things that I do is to ensure quality over quantity, so that you will not get frustrated anytime you are building your community and you've had situations where you are teaching people things and you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over, because everyone coming to the community are basically new. So by the time you organize an event next time, you get new people. So you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over. At the end of the day, it leads to frustration because you are not actually moving forward. You are not growing. The community is just remaining the same. So ensuring quality and creating a pipeline so that, oh, if we are at this stage today, oh, introduction to this, what next? How do I move people from being completely new in the community to actually delivering results, to actually learning, to actually growing, to actually becoming the goal at the end of the day? So it's very critical to have that goal in mind, your measure of success, and also a pipeline to drive people to that measure of success. So it helps to reduce frustration, because at the end of the day, your sponsor or organization that is funding the whole thing will want to see results. And where there's no result, because, oh, we are organizing events, everyone is coming, they are collecting swags, we are getting numbers. Does it hit the goal of the company at the end of the day? Probably the company wants, oh, we want more developers to be aware of our products, or we want them, we want our products to become popular in the community. But you've organized like 100 events, but we've not seen up to 100 signups. So the frustration will come in from the company, and at the end of the day, you'll be pushed to drive more results, which will lead to more burnout for you. So it's defining your goal, creating a pipeline towards your goal, and ensuring you are able to move people through that pipeline is one of the ways you avoid burnout, from my experience.
Wow, I feel like you've covered a lot actually. Just, I mean, you talked about the onboarding process, you talked about the goal setting, talked about data, collecting report, and even learning how to tell story and convincingly, tell your bosses, people that hired you, especially if you're working for a company, that what you're doing actually matters. And this, relates to me recently, where I started a community from scratch, and it's been 3 months, and what I heard, we launched the community just about a couple of days ago, and what I heard was, you've used 3 months to do strategy alone, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh boy. And we've had this conversation over and over again, and anytime we have it, it looks like, oh, they actually got it, this is exciting, but they want to see result now. And these are some of the things that we actually battle with. So which leads me to my next question. This is directed to Michael. So we're going to be talking about, again, coming from the early days, if there's kind of like a defining moment or a specific experience that significantly influenced your approach to community management, something that made you stay, in the industry.
Well, I mean, for me, I was lucky enough to figure out that at the end of it all, any community is not about the company, it's not about the product, it's not about, all these ulabalu of return of investment. It's basically about the members who really show up every day. And one of the things I realized that as much as all is said and done, may it be company supported or language or open source or community supported, The members are the most important aspect of the community. Otherwise, there's no community. Something else that helped me, say I'm lucky to build a community in Africa, because at the core of it, African DNA is community. I don't know where I've gone in this Africa where I don't find people either associating with their tribe or certain area and being proud about it, and also telling you more about it, and even willing to asking you to test the local food, just to give you a taste of the community. But ideally, if I tell you building community is easy, I'll be lying to you. And I've seen it all. Because when I started building community, actually, there was no tech community per se. But if there are a couple of things that you need to note. One is that you will be distracted. If you like it or not, there will always be distraction. Either maybe you don't have the funding to run a community, which you have to chime in from your pocket. You'll be willing to forego some of the opportunities that you'll see some of your members take and run with it and grow. You even forget that, they grew from the community. You should be able to celebrate some of those wins and ensure that, you look back at those wins and say, for sure, if this was possible for this member, then maybe I can make it possible for another 10 members or 100 members and so on. I've seen people also start communities because they have this ideology that, you're getting sponsorship money is a get rich quick kind of approach. And when this doesn't come through, of course, they give up or the community itself dies. I've seen people start communities just to get a job. And once they get that job, community, they bid goodbye. But one thing that actually has kept me going is the success of every member in different levels. To see someone actually come from nothing in terms of skills or exposure or even background and try to take an opportunity and run with it. This actually has kept me going on. But also to avoid burnout for me, it has always been from day one. I'll measure growth from the people who can be able to, do a good technical presentation to the community, bring a +1 and guide them, share our culture, share our guideline, and help us actually sustain the momentum. Also, people who leave the community and go start another community. Right now, we have all the languages that exist, kind of communities, very active. We have things to do with Android 254. We have GDE, front and center from Nairobi, and most of them actually I can count them from first generation or second or third generation from the initial communities that we started. If I go to Germany today, I'm sure I'll not sleep outside the in the cold. If I go to Amsterdam, the same case. If I go to San Francisco, the same case. Australia, China, everywhere in the world. And what is actually you might look at it like brain drain, but what actually I believe in that all these people who are building different solutions from EVs to IoT to AI stuff, at some point they might bring that knowledge back home, and we should be able to match what it actually is built across the world and create opportunities. Because another thing that I've seen continuously is how our leadership fails politically. How we keep electing thugs who, after they get the seats, they just decide to amass a lot of wealth, decide to pass laws that actually still keep people poor so that we can depend on them. And one way actually I find that we can be able actually to, grow out of this is to create some of these opportunities and hope that, we'll have more Flutter Waves, we'll have more Africa Stocking, we'll have more FinPlus, we'll have more of, different companies coming up and employing or creating opportunities for different people, solving problems that we face every day. And eventually it might take maybe the next lifetime where I'm not maybe reincarnating as a bird and see actually people try to get that into the next level in terms of how we live and improve the quality of life.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. I mean, there's a lot of reason for people to stay, and usually we've seen where you don't get to quickly, I don't want to use the word earn, but the role of community managers over time. Well, now in the industry, or now in Africa, there's a lot of companies that are now starting to understand, the importance of community management. But we've seen over time that previously communities, get started by individuals that just wants to be leaders, just like Seth Godin wrote in his book. And this also brings me to remembering when I started the first tech community in my school at the time. And I didn't even know I was in community management. It was just born out of need. And a lot of communities are usually born out of need, or born out of, something like that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that, Michael. And so this is my question to Namso. And I think after this, we have about just 15 minutes. So we'll go over just one question for everybody to answer together. And so to Namso, in the fast-paced digital landscape, community management has evolved significantly, which we've all seen. What are some key changes you've observed in the role and responsibilities of community managers over the years? I mean, I want you to just talk about how people are calling community managers social media managers, but I'll allow you to answer the question.
Okay, all right. Um, so yeah, there's always going to be, um, things that we are used to evolving, and it's also as our job as human beings to also make sure that we are keeping up with the times. Um, but one way which I've seen, amongst other ways, is what I mentioned earlier on. So previously, like even up to now, I still get a yearly subscription message from Meetup. There was a mixed up. I ended up using my card, and then it was sorted out, but I still get that. And every time I see that, I'm like, this just reminds me of those days when you like set up an account on GitHub or Eventbrite, so you'll be able to connect with activities that was happening within your area. And right now, we have all of these community events being brought to us. So Twitter Spaces, IG Live, it just makes it much more easier to access all of these programs. So someone that's trying to learn, and maybe they are within a community, or they don't, or they say they don't really have much access to a community to grow from, and is most of my place of, oh, I don't really want to, because it's much more easier right now to learn from communities, to be a part of this community, and even contribute. So we also see scenarios where it has evolved beyond Slack messages, Slack groups. As at my first encounter with WhatsApp community groups was um, just when I initially started Figma Lagos, and I was trying to reach out. No, someone reached out to me from Congo, and added me to this WhatsApp group. Congo, they speak French, so communicating with them in that WhatsApp group was crazy, because I had to like use Google Translate, type, copy it, paste, get the translation, paste in the group, whatever they are responding to me, and copying, pasting, getting the translations, so I know how to reply. And then they just, people are making use of whatever they can to make sure that this thing, there are no barriers for them. There is much more easier way for members of the communities to contribute, share. So if you select community, are more like, oh, these are people that are cool to, these are people that are friends, people that you kind of look forward to. There is much easier access to them right now, via community rapport, or just like what we are doing right now, where there are people that might have probably reached out to them, but then seeing their names in these groups now, you can now maybe get like a much quicker response, or just easily reach out to them. So some of these innovations, it's also moving away from Twitter Spaces to, we have people also creating IG Reels, and these are things that can be shared across WhatsApp status. My still really basic. There are people that are benefiting from this. Not everyone has to keep the data on 247, so people actually turn it off, and then that moment when they turn it back on, they're getting all of these messages instantly. There is also a lot of people that are not aware of all the things that we know right now. in tech. So all those people that have much easier access from being on social media, also with the issue of people calling community managers, social media, you know, um, I think that's from people trying to like blur the lines and just match these responsibilities. I mean, we have communities actually have social media managers, right? To help make sure that they are reaching the right set of people. They're also putting themselves out there for people that could benefit from what they are offering. So all of these things are the more people you reach, the more you're able to see the impact of what you are doing. The more you want to keep doing them, because those are the results that actually makes people want to keep innovating or keep looking at how can we make this even easier, or how can we keep pushing this to a lot more people.
Yeah.
They're muted, Anita. Okay.
I just saw it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that and for actually, breaking it down with a lot more. And I think, some of the innovations that, just like you mentioned, is some of the things that we at CM First Africa are trying to solve. I think last year was the first time ever that we did the festival, just for Africans. And it was really beautiful just seeing community managers coming together to celebrate themselves. And just, it was that day that we told everybody, do not respond to any community members. Today is your day. And we started to kind of see that as something that we want to be doing continuously, because a lot of us learned community management from you guys. We also learned from from the West, from Europe, from US. And we've seen that, the same way community managers are building communities for their own community, is very important to also build community amongst community managers themselves. And the one of those in innovation is CM First Africa, and that also leads me to announcing that our tickets are out, and feel free to go ahead and purchase your ticket. I think Timothy is going to share the link in the chat box here, and to our big bosses as well. You could also help, share a ticket or two. And also for everyone here, if you have any questions, I can see a question from from Augustine. But before I ask that question, I'm going to go around one last question for all the speakers to answer while we are collecting questions from the audience, and then we'll round up very soon. So my last question is, and I'm going to be starting with Michael, then Abubakar, then Adewale, then Namso. I hope I remember that arrangement. Anyhow, that works. But anyways, the last question is, for those looking to start a career in community management, what advice would you give them based on your experience?
Interesting. So I don't give advice for obvious reasons, and this actually could be advice per se. And the reason why I don't give advice, because right now I consider I have a reach of more than maybe 300,000 people across Africa. And imagine if I gave each one of them advice, then I might not have a life. If that itself is a advice for community managers. But ideally, I would say if you are looking to to build communities, one of the things that you should actually enjoy is having people around you and learning from them continuously, because that will keep you moving, will keep you looking forward to the next engagement. Also, you need to try to build some knowledge base that goes beyond yourself and enriches the community that you're learning. Two is the ideology of growth. So you might be tempted to see that, okay, Abubakar is running a community of 5,000 people, and maybe your company or the community that you're running is not growing as fast. It's all about the patience and ensuring that you're consistent in what you do, because ideally, how generally people work beyond even tech or developers or software engineers, or the people are more wired to be to work with predictability. So if in a month you want to meet twice, you might choose, okay, every Friday or first Friday of the week, even if it's for 2 hours, let's us meet, try to discuss something, try to see what is going on, and then follow up maybe with now there's a ability of having a WhatsApp group, a Slack, something that actually keep people engaged throughout, and also that will give you an idea what should you look up or what should the members look up to next time. Also try to gather feedback using Google Form, using any survey tool that is out there, so that the members themselves can tell you what they need to hear and what they can contribute to the community. Finally, also try to collaborate with other existing communities. It's unlike before, there are so many communities, so that you also have some niche. So if you're building a community around a product, then maybe you need to collaborate with language-specific communities so that they can complement what you're not offering, so that you just focus on getting the feedback on that product, making sure that that product serves the community, as well as people find value in it. So that's what I would say you can focus on if you're starting up. But also having a strategy doesn't break a bone. You need something to actually guide you around what you should be looking at, the key outputs that you should be looking at, the objectives that you should be achieving. Either both you're working for a company or you're just building these outside the company, or just a self-sustaining community. Because even people who will rally around what you're doing, they'll need some guidelines to keep them actually, looking forward to build it.
Thank you so much, Michael. I hope everybody has heard that. I hope you take those advice to heart. Thank you. And so next is Abubakar, and we can see your questions. Keep them coming, but keep them not too much. All right, Abubakar.
Okay, awesome. I think mine is three advice. The first one is, we know community managers as jack of all trades, because you need to master a number of skills to be able to build a community, support your community, mentor your community. A ton of questions will come from your community. But my first advice would be, you should be a master of one by defining a career goal for yourself, so that you know the path you are taking as you are building that community, as you are growing the community. You yourself, what direction are you going? How are you growing? Which direction are you facing? Because sometimes you get a lot of people, like MK mentioned earlier. People enter community for different reasons. Some people enter just for money. Some people enter for swag. Some people enter just to become celebrity. But there's a time that all those things will not be important. What is important is, at the end of the day, what are you good at? What is your direction as a person? Then the next thing is, if you are managing communities for a company, align yourself with the business goals of the company. Because one thing that was learned by a lot of people during the December, January layoffs across the world is, when things become tough, companies will prioritize those who are directly affecting the growth of the company, the money they are making. So if they want to lay off now, though this might be different for companies, if they want to lay off and they look at, this guy that's managing community over the past 3 months, what has the community managing added to the bottom line? Is he making any money for us? Yeah, maybe we should just drop it. So as much as possible, define your goal as a community manager and align it with business objectives. Because if you need to prove, a lot of times as a community and DevRel, we need to prove our worth to the executives. It is easier to prove your worth to the executives by saying, oh, I organized this number of events and it added so number of dollars or naira or shillings or whatever to the business at the end of the day. So instrumenting that to be able to show, anytime executives are like, oh, what have you achieved? You have a number to give, you have some dollar signs to show. It shows your worth as a person. Then the third one, I think I forgot the third one, but basically is network. It is extremely important to network. MK mentioned there are situations you find yourself where The only thing, the only currency you have to spend are the people you know, are the people you've connected with. You want to organize an event, you're like, oh, let me tap Adewale here, let me tap. Maybe Adewale knows a sponsor somewhere. Oh, MK, I want to go and do something in Nairobi. I reach out to MK. I want to do something in Lagos. I reach out to this person or that person. It makes it easier to be able to get things done. Or even when opportunities are happening. I've been in GitLab for like 7 years. I get a lot of requests for referrals from people within the community, and I can easily give the referrals because I know them within the community. We've networked, we've discussed, we've gone to events together, and I've seen their work outside. So it's easier for me to say, oh, this person, yeah, I can really drop a referral for you. Or, an opportunity came up that I'm aware of because of I'm close to some industry things happening. And I'm like, I know this person in this community who can be able to get this job done. So networking as much as possible is extremely important at the end of the day, because if you find yourself in some tight corners that only certain people within your contact will be able to get you out of it. And building that network makes life much more easier for you as a person in a community, as a community manager, and as an influencer within your community. Yeah, thank you. I think next is Namnso Adewale. I've forgotten the order.
You and me both. Thank you so much, Abubakar. Well, if either of them wants to go first, I don't mind.
I can go next. I think people have shared very insightful stuff, and I can only add to it. I think one thing that could be added is the fact that when you're building a community, you have to also realize that you can't do it by yourself. This would also escape burnout. So when you support members of your community, you're able to also recognize and enable the people in the community to be able to help each other out. You have to try as much as possible not to like tunnel vision, like tunnel the funnel that everything has to go through you. But if you're able to support the members of the community, then you find yourself, even in your absence, you would see that other members of the community are stepping up to help other members of the community. And that gives you more grace, more opportunity, more space to rest, to be efficient, effective, as the case may be, and still achieve even a more connected community as is your goal. So as much as possible, enabling members of your community to help other members of the community is also something that you can prioritize along with all the amazing advice that people have shared.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adewale. I feel like that's one of the most important advice out there, learning how to enable your community members to be your community moderators, so you don't get to do all the work yourself. And that tunnel vision, tunnel funnel is super, super important. So Namnso.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, everything has pretty much been said, like network, build friendships. It's much easier, and inviting a friend for an event and getting yes on that. It's much easier doing it with people that are also interested in, like community building. On that part, I also want to add that one way that you can also get people within the community to be interested in various activities could be, learning how to transfer excitement. So, and someone mentioned something about getting people to, get involved in design challenges. Now, people might not really see the need for that if their day-to-day job that's also demanding. But what if you could show people how people can come look at this design as inspirations to help duplicate their own, or making it much more interesting for people that that just want to grow, to be like, okay, maybe we can try something really unique. So going away from the typical approach of let's design this screen to what if we could design this screen without using any color, just black and white, or even taking it much further to what if we could do this with just text only, no images, no nothing, no icons, just using plain text to make it interesting. So learning how to transfer that excitement will get a lot more people interested. It will also help get a lot more people, thinking of ideas. So that way you are not the only person involved in pushing everything forward, but everyone in the community kind of feels like, oh, I'm also playing a role here. I'm also making contributions here that is moving this community forward. So excitement transfer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone listening, for sharing your questions. I think we have just about 4 of them. And thank you so much, MK, for answering in the chat box. I feel like you've been answering a lot of questions and just dropping a lot of gems. Thank you so much. And Wayne, I love the contribution. So everybody, you can also check there. He has shared a drive to a number of resources about community management, etc, etc. So we're going to be going over the questions. I think there are just about 4 of them, and I'm going to be sharing them amongst everybody, I guess. So first question is, how do you manage retention in the community? And I think this one can go to Namnso.
Okay, so this might not be the best response, but this is also something that we did at Kimoyo. So because it was very high impact in terms of, we didn't want people that were starting from basic. You need to like know the basics. One approach that we took with getting that retention was making the programs and what we're offering as interesting as possible. So from taking time to create a well-structured curriculum to going out of our way in making sure that people that are within the program get to work with designers from a lot of global companies. People were doing like really interesting stuff. And also going as far as making sure there's a capstone project that solves a particular problem for a company, like a real life problem that this company is experiencing, and which your design solution as a fellow in this program will be implemented directly by the company or by the team within that company. So we try to make it as interesting as possible. Other part with this is people will always join the community and leave at a certain point. So making sure that wherever you join the community, there is something useful for them to want to stick around for, so that when people leave, it's not like they are leaving. It's more like, oh, okay, we could still call on this person that used to be a member of the community to also come show other people what's interesting in this community. Retention in general is also a very tricky topic in terms of communities, because a lot of people, not everyone finds motivation in things that they're not instantly being rewarded for. So there are various ways, depending on what the community is offering, that this can be approached. But most importantly, having or going out of your way to make sure that there is something that people could get excited about as members of the community, things that will make people feel challenged, or things that people can generally just learn from, aside from the usual articles contributions or design activities, community activities, just going out of your way to make sure you have maybe like a surplus of that, or there is something worthwhile keeping them with, that will make them want to stick around within the community.
Yeah, that's about accurate. Thank you so much, Namnso, for sharing that. And this also has answered one other question that talked about, maintaining engagement, maintaining momentum. I think that answer kind of covers a lot of that, because, that would also directly answer to, maintaining retention. And so I'm going to direct this question to Michael, because he's already talking about, not building hackathons around dollars and around money. So the question is, talking about events and sponsors, how have you managed to build partnerships to support the initiative? So I think this would also help to kind of answer, how a lot of people are trying to build communities that are not necessarily linked to a company or a brand.
Yeah, so thanks to GitHub, and I say this intentionally, GitHub 1.0, because the GitHub that exists right now is basically Microsoft in new clothes. And you don't know, sorry, Abubakar, I know you worked with Microsoft before. But ideally, these are the companies that actually believed in us when we were starting up. And it just took us sending some emails, to the GitHub and GitLab later. And actually, they got the idea, and they were ready to send us some cash to do a couple of things. And for us, you were honest enough to, share the results, share what was going on, the achievements. But as Abubakar said, if someone is there to refer you or to introduce you, is very, very important, because ideally, referral is not the same as, writing from thin air. So there's this guy from Israel who is an open source huge contributor, who gave us some contacts, and he was ready to even introduce us. So that also helped a lot in the subsequent conversations. But ideally start. That's what I would say. Be ready to start even without anything. I've seen communities start and they're just eating biscuits and juice cola. I don't know if that's available across Africa, but just keep it affordable and sustainable when you're starting. And there's so many people actually who will, once they start seeing the value, even from your members, they can introduce you to different companies who might consider your contribution to the community. And sometimes it's not even about be given money. There are a couple of other ways that companies can come through for you. Number one is venue. If you have ever hosted an event, especially with this economy, venue is not given for free. In East Africa. And I understand, because everyone is in business and they want also to sustain their business. People can actually show up for technical support, because remember, maybe you're just you and you want people to learn some of these skills. Things like DevOps, emerging skills like AI, machine learning, that it's really getting the momentum. There are companies who would be willing to come and take people through that training, which is value in itself, and it also helps you grow the momentum of your community. But for sure, if you need to get some resources in terms of dollars or swag, or even cloud credits, there are companies who are willing to support you through that. You just need to talk to different companies. You might send, like I remember when you were doing the first Ruby conference here in Nairobi back in 2015, I sent emails around maybe 500 to 1,000 emails. I sent to Japan, China, people even who don't speak English, but I was like, okay, what do I have to lose? At the end of the day, my big responsibility is to make sure that this conference happens. And to my amazement, we did not get so much resources, but that initiative actually propelled us to where we are today. And it shows so many people that this is doable, these people are serious. And over time, we have received great speakers, creators of Homebrew, senior engineers in Microsoft, from Microsoft, GitLab, Spotify, people who are just paying their own flight, hotel and everything, just to come and speak to this community. People even don't know Africa, by the way, guys. Outside Africa, no one knows Africa. You'll be surprised that someone is asking, where is Lagos? Okay, Lagos is more popular nowadays, but someone will be asking, where is Nairobi? So these are some of the things that you need to do. Start, keep the momentum. Everyone wants to join a moving, vehicle. Be ready to start small, and things will be okay over time. Just be consistent in it, and it will just fall into place.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for answering that question. And I think one of our last speaker joined in. I'm sure probably network or something. Thank you so much for joining in, Ada. And before Abubakar drops off, I can see that he says he wants to drop off in 2 minutes. Abubakar, if it's not too much, I wanted you to answer this last question that's just popped in.
So I'm here.
Okay, so how does one know that a specific program is great for your community, especially if a majority of the community members are new to tech, and still retain those current members?
Yeah, I think I had quite an experience with this Malibu community in Bauchi. The first thing is to really understand your community, your local community. I think an experience was when I started doing a lot of GDG, and you'll be asked, you should introduce your community to Kubernetes. My community, where some are still probably not used to how to even use computers. How do I introduce them to Kubernetes? How do I introduce them to Google Cloud? How do I introduce, for example, there was a time we did Android Study Jam, like how many years back? before Kotlin came and so on. Some of them don't even know Java. They don't even know how to write a single line of code. How do I introduce them to some of these things? So really understanding your community and creating that pipeline where they are able to learn those basic skills that will help them grow to where whatever community you are running is expecting you to be. Okay, it's one of the things when someone asked about company aligned communities and non-company aligned communities. It is easier for you to grow your community when you are not aligned with certain companies. But when you're aligned to certain companies who expect you to grow your community and be aware of their own technologies, it becomes difficult to like, oh, there's AI out there now, and you want to teach your community AI. Where do you start from? Probably a lot of members in your community don't have no idea about AI. Where do you start from? Do you start telling them about LLMs? Do you start telling them about Vertex AI and so on? They will need the fundamentals. So understanding your community and giving them that basic knowledge right from the beginning, then creating a pipeline where they are able to grow as your community grow is extremely important in growing the community. Because at the end of the day, it's the investments that you put in growing them that will get to a point whereby you can now say, oh, we have experts in this, we have experts in that, and those people can then come back as mentors, maintaining that pipeline so that they come back as mentors to teach the community again and recycle those mentors that way. Because the community are familiar with the people that are now good in what you've been teaching them, it is easier to learn and they can see examples. Because it is easier for you to say, oh, you should come and learn AI because this is what you get from it. At the end of the day, people want to see, is this a career for me? Is this something I can invest my life in? Is this what is more, especially if you are in communities where people prioritize going to school, doctors, these lawyers, and so on. How do you convince them that going into AI will be better than that, especially when they have parents or community where you are seen as not doing anything if you are not in medicine or you are not in all those traditional fields. So giving them that platform to be able to say, oh, so and so is an example. He's doing AI, he's in this country, he's in that country, he's able to achieve this, he's doing that job. And that person comes to talk to them is a way where you can maintain a pipeline where people grow, come back, contribute to the community, and the circle continues. Even if it is small, even if it's just 2-3 people, at least you have examples that can still come back, grow more people, and the circle continues that way. Once again, thank you very much. I have to drop. It's been nice being on this call and sharing with my organs and the awesome folks here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abubakar. You practically explained, a lot of non-profit African tech communities out there. And to Fatima and Augustine, I didn't miss your question. I just want to kind of direct them to the appropriate people that will be able to answer them directly. But before I ask those questions, let me quickly reintroduce Ada. Ada, hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Hanifa. Yes, I can hear you. Hi, everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining. And so quick one, one major question that we've asked all the speakers here, and you could also help answer as well, is to tell us a little bit about your community and, kind of the story coming from early on, because, we want to go into the lessons, insights from building communities from the early days.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My apologies once again for joining in really late. I lost track of time. Hanifa has asked me to share a bit about my community, but I run multiple communities. I think I will just focus on one, which is She Code Africa. Thankfully, today is the 8th anniversary. So She Code Africa has been running for 8 years, and it's a community of African women in tech. It started in 2016. So what we do is that we provide a community platform for women and girls who are interested in going into tech or looking to scale up in tech. Aside from the community platform where we provide them support, we also provide them trainings and form of boot camps, meetups, hackathons, events. We have an upcoming event that's on the 30th. All of this, we also try as much as possible to work with existing communities and government agencies and other tech companies as well to provide the support to these women. I think I'll just put it like this. I hope that answers the question, Hanifa.
Yes, it does. So I'm going to come back to you with a question that has been asked in the comment in the chat box here. But before that, I wanted Adewale to ask you to answer rather the specific question around the hackathon. If you could provide some insights into orchestrating a successful hackathon event.
I don't know where to start from with that regards. I think it's important to understand what the goal of the hackathon is. Because that would then help you shape up. It's almost like a ChatGPT question at this point. Like, how can I say hackathon? But yeah, you need to understand what the goal of the hackathon is, and then you start to shape the hackathon. But at the end of the day, regardless of what the goal is, you want to have products at the end of the day. You want to make sure that within the time frame of the hackathon, people are actually able to build something. Because if nobody's able to build anything, then the hackathon has lost its purpose. Of course, beforehand, there's some administrative stuff that needs to be sorted out before that in terms of like the prize, and when winners you're choosing, make sure that all of this information is readily available and participants understand what they're getting into. So you avoid any misunderstandings after the fact. So that is also very critical in terms of communication. But for the technical part of for the hackathon, it's just about understanding that this is what we want people to build. This is the tools you are providing for them. These are the conditions, the code of conduct, the rules and requirements for them to be able to build stuff and make it as clear as possible, and give them enough time to be able to also build this thing outright. But when it comes to like more specific details, I can't think of anything because it's going to boil down to the organization you work for, the community you're building, the types of community, types of product that you want them to build. So it's going to be to require some more specific domain knowledge to be able to like provide any more useful information beyond that. But yeah, if you are trying to set up an hackathon, make sure you have clear communication around the prices, expectations for the participants, so that regardless of what the parameters are, everybody leaves knowing what they're getting into, what the outcome could be, and also how everything wraps up at the end of the day.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so this is the question that's going to be going to Ada. So this question is a little bit long, so I hope we can all understand it. So this is a question from Fatima. She's asking, how do you get members to participate in a challenge that you do bi-weekly in your community? You're trying to help members build their portfolio and increase their skills, but sometimes people like to compete for money and get geared up because money is involved. But this time, the community that you're running, or this community, is on the fact that members can be compensated with incentives that's not money. If you can help answer that, Ada.
Oh my god, that's a very long question. That feels more like a speech. Okay. Thankfully it is written on here. So how do you get members to participate in a challenge you do bi-weekly in your community? I think for me, across all the communities that I lead and that I have led in the past as well, one thing I try to emphasize on is to focus on quality over quantity. I feel like for a lot of community managers, our actions are driven by quantity. We always want to have a certain number when it comes to metric. We always want to boast about a certain number of activities or members, participation and things like that. But at the end of the day, looking at the quality of activities that come up from that particular initiative. So what I would suggest is understanding that not everybody, for that type of repetitive session, understanding that not everybody would focus on it. Your churn rate is going to be a lot. Doing your groundwork as well would also determine the type of activeness from your community members. If it's a community that's very, very active, then you definitely know that your churn rate might be little. But if you're just bringing up that particular initiative from out of the blues and you want them to participate for that recurring timeline, it might be quite difficult. So like I said earlier, focusing on your quantity, on your quality, understanding that, okay, say you want to get 100 people to participate, you definitely do know that it's not going to be possible for you to get 100 people to participate for a bi-weekly thing. Understanding people's commitments as well, their time schedules and things like that. So I'm trying to read the question. Sometimes people like to compete for money or get because money is involved. And yes, I feel like in Africa, one thing or one mistake that many community managers make or many communities make is you see the level of participation increases when you attach an incentive to it, but when you build your community growth around how it always has to be, there always has to be an incentive, there always has to be maybe a payment or something like that. um, it doesn't provide quality, it doesn't provide quality. I'm looking for a very good word, but for lack of a better word right now, participation from your community members. Because at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. So that's not a sustainable activity, which still brings us back to the part about focusing on the quality of people who are participating in this, even if it's a very small number, as long as they're providing a quality contribution to it. I would suggest that yes, every now and then, provide the incentive, but don't let your initiative or whatever that activity or challenge is be focused on um, having an incentive to it. Because at the end of the day, what it would just make it look like is they're only focused on that incentive. They're not focused on the growth that's associated with that challenge. They're not focused on on any of the metrics that you are focused on. And the moment you withdraw that incentive, it's going to be even more difficult to get them back on track. I hope that answers the question. I'm just trying to read through it.
Yes, it does actually very well. Thank you so much, Ada. So I mean, you can rest a little bit. I just have one final question for you that all the speakers has also answered as well. But I wanted Timothy to be able to answer directly to Augustine's question because it's just asking about the Web3 startup, and I know Timothy has a little bit of experience. So Timothy, my fellow co-host, so this question is saying that when managing communities for a Web3 startup, what are your thoughts on including newsletters and its effects to building and engaging the community?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Awesome, great. So basically, one thing, the Web3 space is kind of still evolving. So basically, one thing newsletter does is kind of keep your community members informed around the latest thing around the Web3 space. So basically, for me, I kind of like feel like newsletter is one of like the biggest thing to keep your community informed about the latest development around the Web3 space, and also kind of like create engagement around them. Because again, when various news and various stuff pop up in the Web3 space, that kind of like create conversation around your community members and create engagement for you, right? Because again, when it comes to engagement, content brings engagement. If there's no content, there's like literally no engagement in your community. So, and this data is kind of like one of the biggest that create engagement. Again, if you run your data, most times usually goes to their emails regarding latest stuff, goes to their emails directly. But one thing that works when it comes to managing Web3 company, kind of like bring those particular information you shared via the newsletter into the community platform. Anywhere you host them, either you host them on Discord, host them on Telegram, WhatsApp, anywhere you're kind of like hosting that particular community, you kind of like bring those information you shared via your newsletter, most of the important one, and kind of like share them on the community. I kind of put a link to the newsletter again for them to subscribe and get more details regarding more detail, more information regarding Web3. So again, newsletter is one of the biggest things for creating information on Web3, and I feel like it solves the engaging thing again in Web3 because it's still kind of like an evolving space.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Timothy. And so finally to Ada, as a nod to the past and a glimpse into the future, if you could offer one piece of timeless advice to current and aspiring community managers, what would it be?
Okay, I would say that is to never stop learning, especially when you're a community manager in tech. The ecosystem is constantly evolving, things are constantly changing, and our field is very diverse. Because I mean, with the different fields that is in tech, you can dabble here and there. And as community managers, you need to be up to date with best practices, with community guidelines, with tools and technologies, etc., to benefit your community members. Because you're like the house of knowledge for your members. So it's to never ever stop learning.
Yes, amen. Preach. Always learn. I'm always reading one book or the other. Always, always learn. Thank you so much for that advice, Ada. And hi Tokwe, we are about to actually close the space. We want to be very, very respectful to our guest speakers. So if you do have a question, maybe you could send it, to us, and we'll make sure to get those questions across to them and get the answers across to you. And so once again, thank you so much to every single one of us, because we've learned a lot from you. We've uncovered the timeless wisdom from your years of trial and error. Because without your trials and errors, we probably won't be here. We'll be doing a lot more errors as well. So we've learned from your challenges, we've learned from your successes. We've also seen, some of those things that we should avoid as community managers. We've also seen some of those things that we should do, as community managers as well. And we hope this session has been informative. We hope it has been inspirational for every single, listeners as well. I mean, it has been for me. And so once again, thank you to all the audience as well. Our tickets for the CM Fest Africa coming up next month is out, so make sure that you get your tickets. And if you're nice enough, ensure that you also get the tickets for your fellow friend. Drag them. They have to be there. Yeah, they have to have fun. They have to learn. They have to celebrate themselves on that day, because we are all amazing and awesome community managers. We also deserve a day for ourselves as well. And we have one more session, I think one or two more pre-festival sessions that's going to be happening just like this. Timothy is going to be sharing the links in the chat box here. So get your ticket. I can't wait to see you all. And let's have an amazing day or night or whatever time you are in the world.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
Thank you for
very
having us.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adewale. Thank you, Ada. And thank you, Amara. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Wisdom. Thank you, Timothy, for holding the fort. And thank me, Hanifa. Mom is saying hi. Oh my God. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Amara. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Chibundu. Thank you, Amiani, rather. Thank you, Just Fats. Thank you, Olorun Toba. Thank you, Elozino Lopez. Who else? Thank you, Wayne. And thank you, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your
God,
week.
am I a wood? You people will not thank me.
Thank you, CM Fest Africa. Oh my God. All right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think we have a session on Friday. If you are looking at connecting your community members to opportunities, we're doing a session with the folks at Prepare on Friday by 7 p.m. I just kind of like drop a link to read on the chat. lu.m/PROXM. Just check the chat session. I dropped a link to it. So looking at connecting your community members to opportunities. Yeah, this is like a perfect session for you to attend. We'll be having the folks at Prepare. What Prepare does is they connect African tech talents to the best global opportunities through community-powered platform. What they do, they usually follow this uniquely partnership approach, working with various communities, like communities you are building, to be able to source talent from your community, from your members, and place them in global opportunities. So if you're a community manager right here who is building or managing a tech community, a developer community, design community, any form of community in tech, yeah, this is a session you don't want to miss. So can you just register for the session? We're pushing out invite again and emails to everyone who signed up for this session and to every member of CLA, C4A, CM First Africa. You'll be getting an invite to this session, and we hope to see you on Friday so you can be able to learn ways to be able to connect your community members to global opportunity. And Stefan even benefits from it, even get event support for events you'll be doing. There's a lot in store for our conversation on Friday. So do well to sign up for it and also share with other community managers who are building communities in tech. So yeah, this is me definitely signing out and telling you thank you for joining. Yeah, bye. Let me kind of stop recording now.